situational approach with the theme of total and physical coordination, methods of language teaching made easy. This afternoon, I will be your first speaker. So my name is Christine Joy Ave, or you can call me Ma'am Christine. And this afternoon, I will going to share to you some very useful tips on teaching, which is TPR. TPR stands for Total Physical Response. And I will going to share to you some tips on how to do it and some kinds of TPR that we could use in our class and some examples. But before that, let's have first our activity, which is connected to our topic this afternoon about the TPR, or the Total Physical Response. This activity is called the Run to the Board game. The procedure on how to do this game is step 1. You need to divide your class into 2. And step 2, after that they now have their group, they need to select each representative of each group, only one representative, because they are the one who will going to act the word inside of these boxes. And step 3, the rest of the member will going to stay at the back, for they are the one who will going to guess what is the player trying to act. Just like, for example, I pick the word scream, and I will going to act it out, and the rest of the member will going to guess what it is, what is the word behind my action. And lastly, this game can be done only within 1 minute and 30 seconds. I know you are very excited to do this game, so let's start.
A few moments later. Meanwhile,
Since we are done with our activity, okay, let's proceed to our formal discussion about Total Physical Response, or the TPR. TPR, we might be wondering what is it and why we are using them. First of all, I start describing of what they are. TPR is a certain gestures that we use our hands, our arms, and our faces to help us to get point across. Now, why we use TPR? What is the reason why we use TPR? In order for us to avoid difficult sentences, fractured sentences, and bombarding students out of too much information. Just like, for example, I am talking to a child like, "What do you like?" without any gestures at all. I expect that the child will not give me any more response. It is because she or he doesn't understand what I am saying. Instead of jumping to another sentences like, "What do you prefer? What do you love? What is your favorite?" So it gets more worse. So instead of jumping to other sentences, why not try the TPR method? Why not to accompany it with gestures? Just like, for example, "What do you like?" So by that, the child could have an assumption or could give you a response immediately. It is because she or he understand what are you trying to say by the use of that gestures. Okay, let's have our objectives for the TPR. So first, to teach oral proficiency at the beginning level, and the ultimate aim is to teach basic speaking skills. So of course, by the use of gestures and by the use of TPR, we could teach young children or young beginners to teach them some basic skills. And the second one is using comprehensions as a means to speaking. And the third one, using action-based drills in the imperative form. The Total Physical Approach, or the TPR, is a method developed by Dr. James J. Asher in year 1977, professor of psychology at San Jose State University, California. Asher developed TPR as a result of his experiences observing young children learning their first language. He noticed that interactions between parents and children often look the form of speech from the parent followed by physical response from the child. So Asher developed the 3 hypotheses according to his observation. So first, listening. So The young or the children could learn their language through listening because by listening they can create sentences. And the second one is language learning must engage the right hemisphere of the brain. So of course, the right hemisphere of our brain is responsible for the learning of language, and the left side of our brain and the left hemisphere of our brain is responsible for the motion or the movement. And lastly, learning language should not involve any stress. So that's why Asher developed the TPR method in order the children could not be stressed thinking or learning the second language or their first language. What is TPR? Total Physical Response is a language teaching method built around the coordination of speech and action. It attempts to teach language through physical or motor activity. So this means that TPR is not always dancing and singing a song. It generally refers to the physical movements with instruction to engage learner. It is the coordination of your language and physical movement. It is the connection of your body and your mind. And it is very popular with beginners and young learners. Especially it is also used to students with all levels and all age groups. So, however, why is it so important? Is it important? Okay, very good. It is very important because you need to teach them on how to understand things. So for example, sometimes you need to confirm the equipment by saying that, can you hear me? Can you see me clearly? So just like that. So the second one is TPR is an approach to teaching a second language based on listening linked to physical activities, which are designed to reinforce comprehension. So TPR in teaching foreign language by using TPR resembles the way that children acquire their first language. They listen, imitate, and watch long before to start speaking themselves. This multi-sense of reprocessing language takes place to the simultaneous activation of the child visual, auditory, and kinesthetic that helps the child to gradually understand a new language in a holistic way. And it is the learning by doing in this world. Using TPR every day makes your class more exciting and engaging as well. For example, you can give them a high five, a good job, a job well done, because by that, they will be motivated on learning and participating to your activities and to your lesson. And don't forget to give them a motivation because they need it also. So here we have two kinds of TPR. First is the instructional. It is the guiding and ordering. So here, we need to use a gestures or any hand gestures to make our students understand what are those instructions written or what are those instructions that we give to them. Just like for example, can you circle this answer? Another example, draw a line. Draw a line. The second one is the educational. It is the teaching and explaining. So here we have 5 steps on how to do it. So step 1 is the prepare. So decide on the vocabulary you will be teaching and think about the most effective movements to be used. You can also take some time to gather any props or any extra materials you will need. So the example for this step 1 is I prepare a tiger and a car. So a tiger. I am a tiger. The second one, the car. Drive a car. Drive a car. So for the step 2, it is the teacher modeling. Show the students the movement and say the vocabulary word. Be sure to do this a few times so everyone understands what you are doing. So for example for this is you will be the one who will demonstrate it first to your student after your students who do it. So, I will introduce to them the tiger. So, the tiger. I am a tiger. A tiger. The second one is a car. Drive a car. And after that, I will let my students to do it. And that's what we call the student modeling. Student modeling, it's time to get your students to involve. Choose a few and help them to mimic the action and say the vocabulary words. So, during this step, I will let my students to do this and this. And the fourth one is the student participation. To ensure everyone understands, have the entire class model the movement and say the word together. And for the student participation, I will going to let them act it out. So, but just like for example, I will gonna raise this tiger and I will let them to do the action together with the word. And just like for example, I will raise the car and I will let them to do the action and also the word. If I will going to rumble this one, if I will going to say this is the car, they can now actually identify where the car is. And also for the tiger, if I will say this is the tiger, they can also actually identify where the tiger it is because I will going to repeat it over and over again until they will retain it to their mind and they could apply it to the outside of the classroom setting. And lastly, the repetition and the practice. So continue teaching the rest of your vocabulary in a similar manner. At the end, be sure to review all the new words and movements the class saw. In this, you need to repeat it over and over again in order it will retain to the students' mind so that they could not forget it easily. Because using gestures will make your students remember and not to forget it easily. So the teacher activities. So we have heard the storytelling session, the have a drama session, the role playing, and the pantomime action, and lastly the action songs. So we have here the characteristics. So first, the coordination of speech and action. Second is learner's rules of listener and performer. So of course, as a learner, it is your responsibility to perform the task that the teacher given to you. The third one is learners monitor and evaluate your own progress. So as a learner, you can evaluate if there is a progress on you or not. The fourth one is learning language by gestures. So, yes. So, the fifth one is the teacher, the students are the actors. Students should be more active. So, using TPR, the student will be more engaging and more active because if there is students who have not that energetic well, so they can be more participative in your class because you use the TPR method. And lastly, the reading and writing is taught after grammar and vocabulary. So we have here the advantages and disadvantages of TPR. So first, the advantage. It is fun, correct? It is easy to implement. It is to reduce the pressure, stress of the students. It is good for the kinesthetic who need to be active with the class. And lastly, it can be used in a large or small classes. And for the disadvantage is, it is only for young, teenager, and children. The second one, it is only for limited courses, drilling and repetitive. And lastly, it is only focused on listening, comprehension, and speaking. So the rules of the learners and the teachers. So first, learners have the primary rules of listener and performer. They listen attentively and respond physically to the commands given. So of course, as a learner again, it is your duty and responsibility to listen to your teacher and perform those activities or those tasks that given to you. The second one is the teacher, the role of the teacher. So the teacher who has a direct and active role has the responsibility of providing the best kind of exposure to language. Of course, as a teacher, it is our duty and responsibility to expose our students or to teach our students clearly about the language we're teaching and for them to understand it well. The conclusion of the TPR. So TPR is a language teaching method that learners speaking skill through listening to their teacher and before requiring them to speak and asking them to practice using verbal communication accompanied by physical action. So in conclusion, the TPR method or the total physical method will start from the teacher before the student because the teacher will model it first after the student do it because the student will just going to listen to their teacher and participate and perform what the teacher given task to them. And as a teacher, always remember you need to repeat it over and over and over again for your students not to forget it easily. So that concludes my total physical response seminar because oral approach will be discussed with my partner, Miss Janine Warren. Thank you for listening. God bless.